Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports Georgia. Missed last week; it was a little bit of spring break for the both of us, but we are back and ready for action today. Started spring ball for the Georgia Bulldogs. Going to talk about that, expectations, what to look for, what to expect leading up to G Day, crystal ball for Georgia Dogs, and then the Georgia Dogs getting it done. The Bulldogs getting it done on Combine, on the NFL Combine just last week. So we're going to talk about that. Who made some jumps? Our boy LADD did pretty well. So hopping over to our Georgia insider, Mr. Bryce Mandala. Bryce, how are you, man?
I'm great, man.
Fantastic. Good to see, man. So look, first order of business, you guys get yourself, look, it's been a little slow, but you don't just have the number one edge. There's a slew of Georgia, of crystal balls or favorites, I guess you could say, for the Dogs, but a crystal ball has come in for the number one edge in the country in Isaiah Gibson. And look, with Florida landing the number one or number two edge in LJ McCray, Isaiah watching this film, we're going to pull it up here in a minute while you talk about him. Exciting one here that you guys are getting.
Yeah, it's been a pretty slow recruiting cycle for Georgia. We've talked about this in previous shows. And, there was a few comments saying, "Oh, it's not slow. They have like 2 5 stars. They're still a top 10 class." But I found a eye-popping statistic on 24/7 Sports, one of the recruiting sites. Georgia has not had a 2025 commit sign or verbally commit, excuse me, since October 12th, 2023. It has been 5 months since Georgia has had a guy verbally commit. And that was Bo Walker, a 3-star running back who isn't even nationally ranked. He's a Georgia guy. Didn't look too much into him, but that was the last commit we've had in the 2025 class. So a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's not slow because we got a couple crystal balls and 2 guys committed." It is extremely slow. I mean, that was just a very alarming statistic that I came across, that we haven't had a commit in 5 months. We've had the crystal ball from Elijah Griffin, the number one interior defensive lineman. So obviously that's huge. But also in recent news, this just surfaced within the past week, Isaiah Gibson receives a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong from 24/7 Sports. He's a 6'4", 245-pound edge rusher from Warner Robins High School in Warner Robins, Georgia, which is Central Georgia. For those of you that don't know, that's where Mercer University is. He's the number 17 overall prospect in the class of 2025, and he's a 4-star. But we all know how it works with the juniors. If he's the 17th overall prospect, he's going to get that 5-star within the next year, no doubt about it. If not before his senior season starts. So it's obviously big news for Georgia with the slower recruiting class. And once again, just an absolute unit of a dude, 6'4", 245 pounds. Yeah, really excited to see if we land him.
And if you take a look at his film, we were kind of playing there for a quick second. And, what I look for, especially in these guys, their size is always a big factor because they're just the biggest kid on the field typically. So you'll see them bully guys. And sometimes you'll see guys that are bullying guys, and that's basically all they can do. This guy's got technique. He has patience, which obviously allows for those stars to go higher, that 4 and 5-star range, because they are the complete package. When you are landing yourself a 5-star guy, you expect him to have it all. Again, watching his film, you should be very excited for landing yourself in somebody like an Isaiah Gibson. And we'll see how he plays. Again, that film you're watching there too, most likely is his sophomore. Some of it is his junior year. So to have that technique, to have that discipline that early on is incredible. But yeah, Elijah Griffin's another one, 5-star guy that you guys are leading the way. Zayden Walker currently leading the way as well, 4-star linebacker. Then a couple 3-stars in Travis Smith, Lagonza Hayward, and Darren Inagabin. I think I did pretty well on those names. So look, I love how you pulled the stat coming from the clouds there from October 12th. And that's slow. I mean, there's been noise, right? But nothing really has stuck. I'm not saying it's time to panic by any stretch of the imagination, but I would say to Georgia standards, it is a little bit slower. But I've also seen Georgia go on an absolute tear, and I expect that to probably happen in the coming months. Things have opened up. They're now allowed to visit back on campus, so those visitors are starting to get lined up over these next few weekends here, leading up to G Day. I expect a few probably to pop before and 100% obviously afterwards as well.
Absolutely, and obviously with spring practice starting, these recruits are going to be on official visits. G Day is a huge day to bring recruits in, and that's on April 13th, as we've talked about before. And one thing I will say that I am happy about is we are capitalizing on the in-state talent. You know, we got absolutely cooked in the SEC championship game by a pair of Atlanta suburbs guys, Isaiah Bond, who went to Buford High School, and Caleb Downs, who went to Mill Creek. That just doesn't really settle right, I feel like, when you get an in state guy on another team, hence Alabama, and just kind of have those players dominate when Georgia missed out on those two guys. So Elijah Griffin and Isaiah Gibson, both 5-star. Isaiah Gibson will be a 5-star in the next year. Both from Georgia, and one of them's from Central Georgia, and then Elijah Griffin's from the Savannah area. So that's something really good to see, and that's something Georgia basketball is notoriously terrible at. Is getting, I mean, the Atlanta area has so much basketball talent, and that is something that our basketball program.
It's Mike White for you, you know. But look, I think a good point to the talent and getting around your area. Florida, obviously, always a narrative is that there's so much talent in Florida. You should be able to keep it close to home. I think that's gone out the wayside, especially with NIL. I mean, people are just plucking kids left and right out of Florida. It's just pumping guys left and right. Texas is another one, but Georgia is the last couple of years now has really started to produce talent. The great thing about Georgia, there really isn't much competition. I mean, Florida's got to go up against UCF now, Florida State. USF's kind of making a little bit of a run. Obviously, Miami, and then of course everybody else is diving into it. But that homegrown state, there's a lot of competition. Georgia doesn't have that. Thankfully for them. So you got to love it when you can always pull guys that are close to home and be able to keep them locked in. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this and keep monitoring the recruiting cycle as it goes on. Again, Georgia hasn't fallen short in the last couple of years. Think he'll be just fine. But you've also stated, too, with the NIL that Georgia is a little bit behind. So could we see with schools making some changes, some major changes to their NIL, the competition maybe level out a little bit? It will be an interesting one to follow around with for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a great point with, I guess, the competition with other Power 5 schools in the state. All Georgia has is Georgia Tech in the ACC.
Yeah, they don't
they
count.
Obviously have not. Yeah, they obviously have not been good, especially the past 5 years. Making a little bit of a comeback surge. I think they won 7-6 this past year, and it was a pretty competitive game when we played them in Atlanta. But even like a school like Alabama, like you got to compete with Auburn as well. So I think you bring up a great point with not that much competition for in-state Power 5 schools, only SEC school as well.
Yeah, they should be able to eat it up. Look, let's talk about you guys crushing it in the combine. LADD, or the guy we were talking about over the last couple of weeks, I want to say, I said, look, I could see him easily going in an early first round. Chiefs right now are favored. That's looking like a landing spot for him. We know what Patty likes to do with those slot guys. We were just talking before the show too. That position group has gained a lot of popularity, and LADD seems to be leading the way. If you go I looked at a power board today on top receivers. LADD was sitting at number 6 for overall receivers, and we're talking about Malik Neighbors, Brian Johnson Jr. is at LSU, obviously Marvin Jones Jr., a wide receiver out of Oregon, and a wide receiver out of Washington.
Marvin Harrison.
What'd I say? Marvin Mims?
You said Marvin Jones Jr.
Okay. Yeah, Marvin Harrison. Yeah. Yes, thank you. We'll get eaten up for that for sure. So, I mean, think about those names that I just mentioned and what kind of company. Like, if we would have said a year ago, the lad sitting in this company, I think you'd say we're crazy. So, incredible combine by him and a couple other dogs as well, too.
Yeah, I mean, you put it perfect. If you would have said that Ladd McConkey was in the conversation to be a first-round draft pick at this time last year, I mean, you would have thought I was crazy. But every single thing that this guy has done in the offseason since this past season ended, he has improved his draft stock dramatically. At the Reese Senior Bowl, showed out in practice, in the game, won offensive player of the week for like the practices, voted on by his defensive back teammates. And in the combine, he does it yet again. He runs a 4.39 40-yard dash, which is tied 6th amongst wide receivers. And this is a very deep wide receiver class, a lot of speed. Obviously, Xavier Worthy breaking the record with a 4.21. 13 reps on the bench press and 36-inch broad jump. He led Georgia in every single category, in every single event except bench press, where Kendall Milton had 18 reps on bench. And what's kind of interesting is not nowadays, not every single player participates in these events. I mean, obviously, like you did not see Brock Bowers participate in anything. Kamari Lassiter, I believe, only did the cone drill because he's obviously back end of first round, early second rounder. So those are just guys that don't really want to hurt their draft stock in any way. So there isn't much of an incentive for them to participate. But other highlights as well. Amarius Mims, projected first round offensive lineman, 6'8", 340 pounds are his official measurements, and the guy ran a 5.07 40-yard dash, which obviously for a running back that's got off 340 pounds running a 5.07 40-yard dash. I mean, that's unbelievable. Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina ran a 4.95. So like to kind of put into perspective how crazy that is. And that's someone who also, I think, who already is going to be in the first round, maybe bumped him up from the 20-25 range to the possibly the 10-15 range. So that's something to look out too. Tyke Smith, star safety, ran a 4.46 40-yard dash and a 36-inch broad jump, the exact same distance as LADD McConkey. Javon Bullard, 1/100th of a second behind Tyke Smith with a 4.47 40-yard dash. And then Kendall Milton with a 10.4-inch broad jump. And that was a broad jump, and then Tyke Smith was a vertical jump.
It's a great day for the Dogs, and it looks like they're gonna eat again once again in the draft. How many of those do you think will become Eagles? You think that pipeline's still gonna funnel through?
Yeah, DeAndre Swift just got
they got Saquon.
The candidate, from the Eagles, and now he's on my Chicago Bears. So that was a huge pickup for us today. I know we don't talk too much NFL on here. Yeah, DeAndre Swift is on the Bears now.
I was wondering where he went. Good for them. Because there are a lot of question marks. First round draft pick. Justin Fields is not going to Atlanta. Obviously, I know this is NFL, but it was big day, big signing day. So Kirk Cousins to Atlanta, and Fields still there. So interesting for pickup for Swift.
Definitely. If this was NFL, we'd have a ton to talk about. So many free agent signings today. A lot of talks were the Bears were going to get either Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley, but I'm glad. I'm cool with DeAndre Swift. Much better contract, and he went to Georgia, so I love to see.
Sure.
As far as I know, I'm almost 100% certain he's the only Georgia alum on the Chicago Bears roster, because we obviously let Roquan Smith walk.
I love Roquan Smith. He played Miami?
He's awesome. He's on the Ravens.
Ravens. Okay. I love Roquan Smith. Look, in Swift, I mean, had a weird year at Philadelphia. They used running backs in a very unique way, given the fact that Jalen Hurts and the tush push. I mean, they just, for a fantasy purpose, I guess you can say. So I think DeAndre Swift will probably. The Bears have always notoriously been known for running backs, and their running backs 8 last year. Not big on their draft scale, but both those guys they got their work, and now you're gonna a veteran guy in DeAndre Swift. I think it's gonna do them some wonders. So again, enough NFL talk. Let's get into the juice of it though. Spring ball started today. Not much coming out of what happened today, but I want to get your thoughts, your opinions. What are you hoping to see? Obviously, Ryan Puglisi is still a big hot topic that people are definitely going to be talking about. I saw a few people kind of amping it up, getting excited to see what he's able to do. Trevor Etienne, obviously going to come in and get some big snaps. What are you hoping to see and come out of this spring camp for you?
As we were talking about kind of before the show, Georgia, I feel, doesn't really document. You don't see too much stuff on social media from their spring practices, and outside of a few videos here and there just from like the Georgia football account. So the biggest thing I feel is just getting to see those new guys, those new 2024 recruits on G Day, because G Day, pretty much every spring practice for and at any school across the country, they make the teams dead even. It's not like an A and B team. It's not starters against bench players. So as you said, seeing Ryan Puglisi, seeing where he ends up on the quarterback depth chart. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton is, I guess, slated to be our number 2 option behind Carson Beck. Carson Beck, obviously, returning as a starter. But it'll be an interesting competition because I feel like Gunnar Stockton really hasn't, proven anything yet, especially on the field, to prove that he's our number 2 option at quarterback. So true freshman Puglisi could sneak into that second string spot. Guys like Ellis Robinson, who have just lit it up at every one of those Elite 11, All American Under Armour games. Saw him on campus a few weeks ago. So just guys like just seeing this historic recruiting class for the first time, and I feel like that's what's going to be extra special about this year's G Day.
Somebody for me that I followed closely is Samuel Pimba. He was a big time Gator target last year, edge rusher / D lineman. Got a few snaps last year. Big Baby Davis, somebody who was a big time recruit last year, throwing up his money, cash money during the Under Armour game, one of those games. Somebody who was a 4-star and then just skyrocketed up to a 5-star. Definitely was pumped by that Georgia money, but I digress. Those are 2 guys that I'm really excited to see the impact they're going to make. I mean, they're making room. I mean, this is what Georgia does. It kind of just shuffles and repeats. So I know they got their snaps, not many. I expect them to take an increase in those snaps to become a leader, to see the size that they put on those. Samuel Pimba is something special. I think he has the potential to be one of those guys that we're talking about for a very long time. So, although a Gator fan, I enjoy watching player development, and those are some of those 2 guys that I'm excited to see again because we missed out on them, right? For me, it's like, what did we miss?
Yeah, and those are guys from the 2023 class that really just haven't seen the field much, obviously, because Georgia has that depth. The only 2023 guy on defense who got a lot of action was C.J. Allen, linebacker, who came in when Jamon Dumas Johnson fractured his forearm. So he played for the last, I believe, 4 or 5 games of the season.
And Dumas is gone,
so
right?
He was really,
Kentucky.
Yeah, Jamon Dumas Johnson transferred to Kentucky. That was the biggest shock of the offseason by far.
Maybe C.J. Allen got that dog in him.
5 episodes. Well, that's exactly it. And C.J. Allen came in literally first week against Ole Miss. That was the first game he played. SEC Freshman of the Week right off the bat. So that was kind of, I guess a wake-up call. But that was very shocking to me. And now Kentucky's got Brock Vandegrift as well. But, yeah, guys like Samuel Mpemba, didn't really see the field much. I've seen him in person. Just
beast.
Gigantic human being, yeah.
Yeah.
He's leaner too. He's like 6'5", but just absolutely
all muscle.
Massive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I met him at Friday Night Lights. It's a camp at Florida. He was with Will Norman. Will Norman, who's now transferred to Marshall. But Will Norman does not, they're both guys, both highly coveted, both 4 stars. I'm like, one's not a real 4-star.
It's
crazy
tell when a dude is just that's just God given,
just built it, literally built different, unreal. And so I think I like the way he carried himself. He's got a nice little swagger to him. I think he's a great head on his shoulders from the conversations that I was kind of in his camp, walking around, kind of just hearing him. I think there you got him a good one there. So it will be exciting to see. Hopefully he has a horrible game against Florida, but ultimately excited to see how his season goes. Look, real quick, you guys play basketball Wednesday versus Mizzou. If you were to win that game, we've got a rematch in Florida. Mike White. I want it just because one more nail in the coffin for Mike will be exciting for the Florida basketball. But I also think there's going to be some some bad blood in a good way, right? Like a nice little Mike White's kind of last little straw. If there's a game that Mike White can get the boys up, you got to think it's that one. But Mizzou's making a little bit of a run here and could pull off an upset because they are, I think, 14.
Mizzou has been a disaster in basketball. I still believe they're winless in the SEC.
Yeah, they won like 8 games. Yeah, I think you're right.
They're 8-23, whatever. Yeah, I believe they're 8-23. I don't see them upsetting Georgia. But let me tell you, if we were talking basketball on this show, it would be a little less positive. I'm a huge Georgia basketball fan too, and I really wish more people at this school cared about basketball. But I mean, it's been pretty brutal. We had such a good start to the season, and it's just gone completely downhill. And like you said, what a potential rematch could be with Florida, the cards are not in our favor either. We're on a 8-game losing streak against Florida basketball.
We love it.
Yeah, it's pretty.
But look,
rough.
that's a game.
On the bright side, Georgia won 16 games last season. So if we beat Missouri, we technically improved from last season because we're at 16 right now.
Fair enough.
So it would technically be an improvement of a season. And, going into next year, we got a 5-star Asa Newell from Montverde Academy. I mean, there's no chance that this season could be, or next season could be worse than this season. So I honestly think the future is somewhat bright for Georgia basketball.
So you're still high on Mike White. He's not going anywhere. You're all in.
I think he gets one more season. If they lose to Missouri, I think that is the deciding factor.
Really? Lost you. So he could go from winning that game, and it's all right, he's got one more year, to if he loses, that's it. Did you see, I don't know what team it was, the coach comes in for the post-game interview, and they're like, so what's your game plan now? What do you plan to do? What's the rebuild? She said, well, there is no plan because I just got let go. Did you see that?
I didn't.
It got posted today. She lost the conference championship game. They asked her. She sits down and she said, yeah, there is no plan. I just got let go. And then she goes like, I guess that's probably going to be the last question. Gets up and leaves. Wild.
Wow, I didn't see that.
Yeah, wild.
I guarantee you it's something I'm gonna open up my phone right after this show and I'll see it.
For sure.
I guarantee it.
How did you go from the locker room to that? And they're like, yeah, you're done. It's like, I would have just left. I would have all right, cool. Thanks. Appreciate you. Yeah. That could be Mike White. That could be Mike White on Wednesday night. Then what you're telling me.
Yeah. If we lose to Missouri, what could be their first, I'm going to fact check that for a second.
First what?
First SEC win.
Oh.
They are.
I think you're probably right.
Missouri basketball did not win a single SEC game in the regular season.
Yeah, that'd be pretty brutal.
If Missouri beats Georgia on Wednesday, Mike White is fired.
I wonder if we were Vanderbilt's first win on Saturday because they only had 8 wins.
No.
Or they had 9.
Vanderbilt had 5 wins. I think that was their.
Vanderbilt beat Mizzou.
Yeah.
Must beat Mizzou. Well, Bryce, great show as always, man. Appreciate you coming on and chatting it up with about the Dogs. Obviously, we'll kind of monitor spring practice as the coming weeks happen, see if any crystal balls come through or any recruits, any commits happen. We'll definitely be keeping tabs on it, so be sure to smash the like button and subscribe on the way to 500 subs. We're about almost at 300, but keep showing some love, dropping the like. Until next time, I'm Shelton. That's Bryce. We'll see you, boys.